All right, welcome back to the channel. A lot of you have seen my video yesterday talking about the Bitcoin price and the Bitcoin dumping and if we're going to see a recovery in the short term and midterm. And like I said, like I iterated in the previous video, I said that of course that the bull run is not over just yet because of this exchange reserve data that we saw here and this outflow of Bitcoin from exchanges into the pockets or the wallets of institutions, because this is a very big amount of Bitcoin being outflowed. And we can see here in this chart that we see Bitcoin is actually depleting over exchanges. It's actually being taken out of these exchanges over a rapid rate. And we just saw recently with this big dump, we should have seen a lot of Bitcoin inflow into exchanges because a lot of people would be selling Bitcoin, and so they would be putting it on exchanges to trade for fiat. But what we saw is like the exact opposite. Is we saw Bitcoin leaving the exchanges right when we saw a huge massive dump. So what would happen is the traditional investor or trader would be liquidated or be forced to sell their Bitcoin, and now it's actually going to the hands of these huge institutions that are buying. Now, we don't really know exactly who is buying. There are a lot of rumors going on about some huge institutions like maybe Walmart saying that they're going to have to release if they have any Bitcoin holdings in the next month, or other institutions. But what is going on is obvious that there are a lot of big players, big whales out there that are buying Bitcoin up as much as they can before the next pump. And we see that here in this exchange reserve of amount of BTC held in exchanges going all the way down really low in the very low area right here. Right when we're reaching all-time highs, the Bitcoin is going down. So that is a bullish thing. And then we also talked about this chart, the outflow chart of exchanges going up extremely high. We see here two huge spikes towards the end, right when Bitcoin's price was falling on, I think it was Saturday. So is the bull run over? No, it's not. It's still happening. And we can see that here because of the amount of Bitcoin being transferred to wallets, to cold storage wallets from exchange wallets. So that is a very good sign to see here in Bitcoin. I'm going to get through the charts starting with Bitcoin and seeing what its price action is before. But like I mentioned in yesterday's video, I did draw a W formation that could potentially happen, and we're actually seeing that happen right now. So we're seeing a retest of the neckline or a test of the neckline for that W pattern, but we're going to jump at that in a bit. But also what we saw in these markets were the Bitcoin miners actually have a nice bounce from their support that's been having for the last couple months. So that's good to see. Some are a little bit more stronger than the others. We'll get right into that. But also SOS has managed to be one of the only green miners out there, have a green day today. So that's very exciting news. So we're jumping all into that and what we can see potentially happening in the next couple days. So if you're interested in that, hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm going to be updating you as much as I can. I try to do it daily. But without any further ado, let's get into the charts. All right, so we're back here with my BTC chart that I drew the W pattern for yesterday, and it's actually playing just exactly how I drew it, a little bit bigger than how I drew it, but it's still that W formation that we're looking for nonetheless. And what we actually saw here now is, let me erase my old drawing, and now we can look here, and if we check here on just this portion right here, we see that we actually did a low, a lower low, and then a higher low. So we did form some sort of a small inverse head and shoulders pattern, which is another bullish pattern. And apart from it being a part of this W structure here, this double bottom pattern, it is also another bullish pattern. So we have some confluence there and showing some good price action happening. What we want to see now is, like I said before in the last video, remember, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button because it keeps you updated with the newest information for the Bitcoin price and the Bitcoin miner price. But once we break this neckline right here, we use it as support right here, right around the $57,000 400 area. And once we have a clear retest and confirm of that area, we can move up to our next level here, which would be somewhere around testing the 60,000 area to 62,000 area, which was some huge resistance here in the past. We see here it was kind of trading in this area, and then once we broke down into it, we traded in again until we broke down to our previous levels down here. So that is what's next for the Bitcoin price. What we want to see in the next couple hours, in the next 4 hourly candles, we want to see a break of this neckline at 50. $57,000, a retest, and then a movement upwards to this next area right here of consolidation between 60 and 62K before we can make our next leg upwards. But I see that potentially happening within the next week. And we can also see that here too if we take that measured move of this breakout. If we were to take from the neckline down here, we could see that potentially moving into that area of that 60,000 area. So that is a good thing to see here. We're seeing a lot of confluence in the charts. And we also, if we take a look at the EMA ribbon, let me just get some of these out of the way. Right here. All right, we see on the EMA ribbon, we actually broke through that, that line of resistance right here. And we actually made it into a support, which is a very bullish thing as well. We're seeing here, it was flipped here bearish, and we saw this continual downtrend. We saw it try to break through the EMA ribbon, but to no avail. Tried again, and now we're actually starting to use it as support. So that is a very bullish thing to see here. So once we get that confirmation of a flip of the EMA ribbon, probably right here, and then we'll start seeing it used as further support to further move the price action towards this area of consolidation here near the $60,000 to $62,000 area where we kind of saw the same consolidation over here, right? So that is what's going on with Bitcoin. It's still in a very crucial moment because it's kind of going back into that wedge formation that we saw it forming. So if we zoom out here, we can see this huge wedge formation that was that has been printing for a couple months now here. And so what we want to see is we want to break back into that area. So breaking through this yellow support line here is also very key in keeping it as support. Because what we saw right now is if it keeps that support, we see this huge kind of fake out of this breakout right here. So we didn't go all the way down to our target of around $44,000 right here from the bottom of the wedge, but we can see a nice fake out and then move towards the upside here to test and retest ultimately $64,000, kind of near the all-time high, and then break up further to maybe that $75,000 to the $80,000 range. And we also see here on the 4-hour that we were extremely oversold here on the RSI here. And every single time we've gone through those areas, we've seen huge moves to the upside, right? Move to the upside here. We could potentially have one going up here to test this area over here of the resistance of this ascending wedge. Also here, right, here and here. So it's looking very good for Bitcoin right now. Yet again, we do have to make this this support line right here, this ascending support line as support. So we have to break back into this pattern to confirm that fake out, right? But other than that, if we do get rejected, we could see further downside here towards the $50,000 area. But that's the bear scenario right now. It's still looking like it can still hold its price action above 55K or 55.5K, which we were also talking about in yesterday's video. So Bitcoin is looking good, but let's jump into our miners, Mara, Riot, and SOS. All right, so with Mara, we see here, we actually saw today another pretty red day, almost at one point, I think a 14% or 12% drop to the downside right here. And why that was, actually, if we zoom in a little bit closer, let's go on the hourly time frame and see what's actually going on with this price action. So like I said yesterday, we were supposed to be holding on to that support right here. But what happened was once we opened up, we dropped down here. We couldn't find support. We tried to retest that area right here of around $35 and ultimately could not break back into our pattern, kind of like Bitcoin where we're breaking out of our ascending wedge pattern. But we couldn't, when we retested it, we couldn't break back into it. And then we dropped down yet again. And we kind of formed this descending wedge. I wouldn't really call it a descending wedge, but more of a descending pattern right here because we don't have as much movement between the resistance as I would like, right? We would have this. So maybe a better touch right here to call it a descending wedge, but a descending pattern nonetheless right here when we have this resistance coming down, this descending resistance also going along with the EMA ribbon right here. So we did see that pattern, but we actually, towards the last hours of the trading period, we did see it actually break out. And if we zoom in right here, we do see this first green candle that we've seen in a while happen right here. So that is a very bullish thing here. And what happened also was we bounced right here on the golden pocket, which was what I was talking about yesterday. I said if we could not hold the support line right here at around $35, $36. Then we would break down and retest our golden pocket area, which we have done in the past. If we zoom out here, this golden pocket area right at the point 618 to the 0.65 area, we've retested it multiple times, especially when we had some very low bottoms right here, right there. We've tested it over here, which also kind of lined up with our ascending support line. And then we also tested it over here too. And every single time we've had a bounce. Now, the more we test a certain area, right, like the golden pocket or a certain support level or a certain resistance level, it's gonna the more likely it is to break down or break out, right? So we don't want to have that many more retests of this area because that could mean danger for these Bitcoin miners. But as of right now, since Bitcoin is holding its support and is trying to break back into its pattern, we can see these Bitcoin miners do the exact same thing. And what we're going to want to see in the next couple of days is we want to see Mara bounce up, which it did. It bounced from its lows of around $31 back to almost $34 in the post market right here. What we want to see is a bounce, which we got, and then a retest of this area right here at around $36 to come back into that pattern. But we do have a lot of resistance coming into that area. We have our resistance box here in the blue. We have a resistance box here. We have these EMAs that are curving towards the downside, as also resistance and our resistance of the support here. So we have a lot of resistance to come up to. But if we do see that retest of this resistance area and use as support, there is no doubt in my mind that we could not go further up here and continue our bull run. So that is what is happening for Mara's price. Why don't we jump into Riot next? And we also can see here, if you bought, remember, like I said before, anytime we have lows at resistance areas or at the golden pockets, those are great buying opportunities. So I know a lot of people bought some today, even though there's a lot of fear in the market. Remember, the more fear there is in the market, the better it is to buy, because a lot of people are panic selling and they're selling at a very low price, most likely selling at a loss. And so that's when you have more opportunity and more room to grow and to gain from trading. So we saw that right here as well, because we saw the RSI in a very, very oversold territory. And this is on the 1 hour, but actually if we go to, let's go on the 4 hour too. If we go on the 4 hour, we see it just as well here. So every time there is a low right here, and a low right here, and a low right here, right, we see great opportunities for upside. We see upside going here, and maybe all the way up here to retest once we break it back into our support. So that's what's going on with Mara. Let's look at Riot next. Okay, so Riot is looking a little bit more sketchy, but it's still forming a pattern of this descending triangle now. And descending triangles are more bearish patterns, like I talked about in my last video. But we are finding a lot of support here on this golden pocket from our swing low of $16 to our swing high of around $78, $79. We're seeing a nice support here at the $40 to $38 mark. And let's zoom in and see what happened for today's price action. As you can see, we're kind of sort of breaking out of that. We're breaking out of that golden pocket, which is not a good sign, but we could break back into it as another kind of fake out, which is what's been happening recently with a lot of these crypto market stocks. Is we're seeing a lot of fake outs because we're seeing a lot of fear in the market. So as we can see here, let's see here. So found it as support here, found the golden pocket support right here. But today we tested the golden pocket, could not bounce from it, and then fell back down towards here to also retest it again. Remember, if we fail this retest, then I see Riot coming back down here to this $30 mark. But if we are managed to break out, maybe retest it again, form some sort of inverted head and shoulders, right? A low, lower low, and then a higher low, we could see a retest of the $54, $55 mark area. But we also have our golden pocket as resistance, and we have this EMA curving downward as resistance. So kind of the same situation that Mara is going to. It held its position well, and after hours, it did go back up. So actually, it's around the golden pocket area. So it has reclaimed that, but we have to see if it will hold in tomorrow's pre-market, because if Bitcoin is dumping right before pre-market open, a lot of people are going to get skittish and get scared again and might want to sell their positions out early. But that is what's going on with Riot. Remember, if we cannot hold that $38 mark, $39 mark, and we get rejected from this golden pocket, we are looking at a price target of around $30. But also you can see that our volume is also getting lower. So the selling pressure is easing down, and we're very oversold right here, very oversold on the RSI. So these are good signs. We just have to keep an eye on whether we can hold the support here at the $38 to $39 region. All right, and now let's look at the most exciting stock right now, the mining stock right now is SOS. So let's take a look at that. And as you can see, it is actually going back into its wedge. So I drew this wedge months ago, not months ago, but like at least a month ago, and it's been following this pattern, and we've been seeing a lot of fluctuation through these prices. So that's something we want to see. It kind of confirms that pattern, and we see it going from here, right, bouncing, and now it actually did hold support at this wedge, at this bottom descending support channel here, and it came back up through here. So that is very exciting for SOS. It's something that's very bullish, and we can see it now. It's going to be retesting very key and critical areas for the price at around $5, because we see that with volume spikes, we see that with the high volume nodes, we also see that with the Fibonacci levels, and we can see here also the EMA and the descending resistance area is at that same mark. So let's zoom in and see what's going on here. Very interesting price action today for SOS. So let's look here. So what happened was, if we check here towards this last couple week or two of price action, we saw just continual downside here. It seemed like it never could end, and we actually broke through this EMA right here. It flipped bearish. We saw a continual downtrend, and we actually saw a hold on right here for a little moment until ultimately breaking down. But then we saw this fake out. We saw actually coming back here into this price, and now it's inside the EMA ribbon. So it's testing all these moving averages as resistance, and we're just testing it to see if it can actually break through this price target and reach ultimately this $4.50 price target to retest that resistance as support to move on further to our next level here at around $5. And then from there, we can move up here towards our next one at around $5.60 to then $6. And once we complete that, and once we retest it, the price target for this descending wedge pattern is the top of the wedge. So we're going back to all-time highs if it can play out as this pattern would normally play out. Let's just zoom in a little bit, zoom out a little bit. But we see here major resistance at the $11.46 mark, $7 mark, and also the $8.68 mark. So we're going to be using these fib levels as support and resistance, right? Coming here, retesting it, and then just making our way back up to where I see major resistance at the $11.46 mark. But for now, SOS is looking really bullish, being the only green day crypto miner out there with around a 12% move. So that's very impressive, very good for SOS and all the traders and holders out there. We do see on the 1 hour, it's still not oversold or overbought. It's right in the middle. So we have a little bit more room to move up to the upside and maybe confirm this breakout. If we look at the 4 hour, let's check that. Same thing, the RSI is still not oversold. Oh, it's actually pretty oversold too. So that is also a bullish sign right there. SOS is looking great for the next run. It just has to confirm this descending wedge breakout. But other than that, it is looking good as long as Bitcoin holds. Remember, the Bitcoin consolidation could last the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks. But we know that these Bitcoin miners follow it to the T, and we saw that today in the after hours. A lot of these were up a couple percent. SOS with the most upside and the most, actually, it's been holding its pattern very well as well. So that is very good to see. Other than that, that's just a quick update for today's markets, what I saw today. Very volatile in the Bitcoin miners. We saw huge dumps, but we also saw a good move to the upside, a lot of bouncing off of major support that I pointed out in today's video. So if you appreciate this content and you want to see more of it, you want to keep up to date, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, It really helps the channel a lot, and I've been getting a lot of new subscribers now, and I'm very appreciative of all the support you guys been giving me on my work for this these videos. So I appreciate that a lot. And on to the next video. All right, peace out.